You see, there's somebody who wants to meet you.
Do I know him?
No. But you took his name, and now he wants it back.
No, sorry. I still don't get it.
It is Western Sydney, home to the newest edition of the Marvel movie franchise. The 7 News Chopper captured these scenes today as work resumed building the set for the upcoming production, Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. It's understood that all cast and crew have now arrived from overseas, and after completing their required quarantine, shooting will begin in the coming days, 18 weeks later than originally planned.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is going to be my new Marvel Shang Chi movie video. They're still filming the movie right now in San Francisco. We have a couple clips to break down, so if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. A little while ago, they also shuffled the order of the Marvel Phase 4 movies, so I'll explain that during the video too. But just starting with the big stuff first, if you didn't see, recently they've actually been filming in San Francisco. Why is that a big deal? Because there is a lot of big stuff that happened in San Francisco in the MCU so far. Probably the biggest is that San Francisco is where the Ant-Man movies take place, both Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp. It's also where the Venom movie took place. I'll explain why that's relevant in a second. It's where Carnage is being held in San Quentin prison here, so it's where that post-credit scene took place, and where part of Venom 2 is going to take place. That's also the exact same prison where Scott Lang was being held at the beginning of the first Ant-Man movie when he first got out. And it's also supposedly the prison that's featured here where the Vulture is when Morbius runs into him and he has that "What's up, Doc" moment during the Morbius trailer, along with Carnage and Scorpion, because Scorpion is supposed to be in the same prison as the Vulture. Whole lot of Sinister Six stuff going on there in the Morbius movie on the Sony side of things. I know everyone's wondering how they're going to try and integrate that stuff with the MCU Spider-Man 3 stuff that they're filming right now. So see, it all is kind of connected. Remember the core operating phrase way back in the day, everything is connected. It'll all make sense real soon. But San Francisco was also featured recently in Avengers Endgame as part of the Ant-Man scenes just a little while ago. Remember, even though it's 2023 in the MCU, they'll kind of explain the timeline at the beginning of the new Marvel Phase 4 movies. Some of them take place in the past, some of them will take place in the present. Scott Lang's van was actually being held in San Francisco in this warehouse. Everyone pour one out for that rat that saved the universe. That rat is the real hero, saving Scott Lang and helping him get out of the quantum realm. There's also the matter of Sonny Burch and the quote-unquote mysterious villain that he works for with billions of dollars to burn on Hank Pym's quantum technology. That's all happening in and around San Francisco as well. The prison that Trevor is being held in during that All Hail the King one-shot that Marvel did after Iron Man 3, when the real Mandarin's forces come to take him away, when he's being interviewed there, just totally doesn't get what's going on. Wait a minute, that's actually happening in Seagate Prison, which is actually in Georgia on the East Coast. So remember, all this is happening in San Francisco on the West Coast. Mostly because a lot of the events of the Shang-Chi movie, the backstory, the Mandarin character, the real 10 rings, take place in and around China or the South Pacific, somewhere in this region. The reason why so much of this movie seems like it takes place in and around San Francisco, though, in the United States, is probably just because Shang-Chi might be living in San Francisco at the beginning of the movie. That might just be his hometown before the Mandarin and the Tournament of the Ten Rings. The way that Scott Lang lives there when he's not doing Avengers stuff. It's just that all the scenes that they're filming for Shang-Chi take place in and around the Chinatown neighborhood of San Francisco, if any of you have been there in real life. Ant-Man and Venom, for instance, over in the Venom universe, just live in a different part of the town. It's the exact same phenomenon for the New York City area in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. A ton of big Marvel characters live in and around New York City. Spider-Man lives in Queens over here, Captain America is from Brooklyn, just below, the Avengers Tower was in Midtown, the Sanctum and Doctor Strange are in Greenwich Village, and the new Kamala Khan Miss Marvel character that they just announced a couple weeks ago, she lives in Jersey City. The new Avengers base was in upstate New York too, but that's sort of a hole in the ground right now after Avengers Endgame. Thanos obliterated it, so they're probably not going to be rebuilding that right away. Mostly because we have Nick Fury's Secret Sword space station from the comics. Bringing it back around to the fake Mandarin in the real Mandarin, I know a lot of you are hoping for some sort of cameo from Trevor in the Shang-Chi movie. Justin Hammer also chilling there too, remarking on how he's just sitting around and nothing is going on. Sam Rockwell did say that he would love to come back. I feel like Justin Hammer as a character is usually most for comedic relief, but you could also put him on a Thunderbolts team eventually. The thing about Seagate Prison is that actually by the time we got to Captain America Civil War, Thunderbolt Ross had started locking up the most powerful Marvel villains, the most dangerous people in the Raft. So if there's a villain that's still alive out there that you haven't seen die in the MCU movies, they're in the Raft right now. That's basically what Kevin Feige says. Like the leader from the Incredible Hulk movie, the Abomination, they're all chilling out in the Raft right now. All the Thunderbolt stuff they're going to cover in the Falcon and Winter Soldier episodes. They're almost done filming that, so don't worry. That's all happening alongside the movies. All that stuff will cross over and weave in. Probably not a whole lot with the Shang Chi movie, though. All the footage that they're filming here of this giant chase scene with the bus around the San Francisco Chinatown area is probably just the Mandarin's forces trying to hunt down Shang Chi at some point during the movie. We don't really know if this is happening early in the movie or towards the end of the movie. They did the exact same thing during Ant-Man and the Wasp, where you have a couple different big action scenes in and around the San Francisco streets. But the other big Shang-Chi clip here is of the traditional Asian village. It has no signs of modern technology. It might have something to do with flashback scenes or explaining the origin of the real Mandarin of the MCU and his rise to power in his quest to acquire the 10 Rings of Power, forming the 10 Rings organization. Part of the movie is supposed to be him trying to actually get the physical 10 Rings of Power, implying that he doesn't actually have all of them when the movie starts. This is really where we start to get into the Iron Man Easter eggs of the MCU. People always wonder how they're going to weave in Tony Stark's legacy to the future Marvel movies. If you actually went to the Marvel Studios panel at Comic-Con, the year before they did the Comic-Con panel for the first Iron Man movie, you would have heard Kevin Feige talking about how they were planning on making the Iron Man movie and how the Mandarin was going to be the main villain. They never fully explained why they swerved on the Mandarin during pre-production, but at some point when they were still developing the movie, they decided to change the main villain to Obadiah Stane, and then the Mandarin sort of became this Easter egg that they tried to include in Iron Man 3 in a really roundabout way, pissed off the fans, and that's why they made the one-shot All Hail the King, to let you know, no, there is a real Mandarin out there. But the whole thing with the 10 Rings of Power is that they were actually created by an alien race, so we've already had so many space-based movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, for at least the Shang-Chi franchise, whatever that trilogy winds up being, because they do intend to make a trilogy if everything goes well, is they'll sort of serve as like the new Infinity Stones, at least on a smaller scale. They're not nearly as powerful as the Infinity Stones. For the most part, they're just describing the Shang-Chi movie as sort of Marvel's version of Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon. Everybody has seen at least clips of Enter the Dragon. If you haven't actually seen the movie, please go watch it because it is amazing. It's a classic. The actual Shang-Chi character was created in the comics in 1973 during this big kung fu craze that was going on in the 1970s in pop culture. Bruce Lee was blowing up at the time, so they basically created him to be Marvel's Bruce Lee. Even the actor who plays Shang-Chi is describing his character as Marvel's version of Bruce Lee. But just like during Enter the Dragon, Shang-Chi gets invited to this special tournament of the 10 Rings that the Mandarin organizes, just like the villain of Enter the Dragon. But the whole plan for the Shang-Chi character is that he will eventually cross paths with people like Nick Fury. Once they land on his radar, that will also kick them into the running for future Avengers movies when Nick Fury is running around assembling a new Avengers team. Speaking of other Easter eggs too, I know people are wondering about Fin Fang Foom, and we talk about the Enter the Dragon movie. That's more of a metaphor for the Bruce Lee movie because Bruce Lee is, quote-unquote, the dragon. But there's been a lot of talk about them actually including the Fin Fang Foom character, the real dragon of the Marvel Comics, inside the Shang-Chi movie in some form. Like, we'll actually see a dragon in a Marvel movie. The big thing that they just changed, though, with the Marvel Phase 4 movie schedule is that now Shang-Chi is coming out before the Eternals movie. Originally, it was coming out after the Eternals movie, and Eternals was meant to sort of set up the idea of X-Men along with Wandavision in the MCU. Shang-Chi himself didn't interact with the X-Men a ton in the comics, so I'm not really expecting a ton of those Easter eggs in the Shang-Chi movie, but it's always possible. I think most of the mutant stuff that we'll see will be in WandaVision, then the Eternals movie, then slowly we'll build up to the full-blown Marvel rebooted X-Men movie in the MCU, but that's not going to happen until way down in Marvel Phase 5. If you have any big questions about what's going on with Shang-Chi or the other Marvel Phase 4 movies, just let me know in the comments below. But as we get new previews, I'll just do more videos about it. Everyone click here to learn about what's going on with Spider-Man 3 and Doctor Strange 2 crossover, and click here for my Venom 2 trailer video. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe. I'll see you guys tonight.